Welcome to a 3 Steps to Sketch on function transformations. So today we'll look at the transformation of a square root function. Specifically, we'll look at the equation y equals 3 times the square root of negative x minus 1. And we'll do this using our on the graph method. So we're transforming that parent function, y equals square root of x. So let's go ahead and get our setup. A reminder of our equation and our method. And here's our outline. So as we said, we're transforming the parent function y equals the square root of x. All right, and so we know that's our shooting star. So let's jump in, starting with step 1. We'll analyze our transformations. And let's start with our horizontal or x affecting transformations. So those transformations can always be found with the x, in this case underneath the radical with the x. And so we see we have multiple transformations. We have a negative out front, which is telling us a reflection is happening, and then we have minus 1, so we have a shift. And whenever we have transformations that are horizontal, we should think about solving order when applying them. So let's write out a quick helper equation. Negative x minus 1, so just your horizontal transformations, set equal to 0. And this will tell us what order. It should help us know what transformation should we do and what order should we do it in. All right, so if we were solving this little helper equation, we know we would start by adding 1 to both sides. So that tells us adding 1 to our x's should be our first horizontal transformation. All right, so first we're adding 1 to our x's, or just moving right 1. So that's x's plus 1. All right. So that means we're doing our reflections second. Let's go ahead and just finish out our little mini equation. That gives us negative x equals 1. And we know to solve for x here, we would divide by negative 1, which really just changes the sign of all of our x's. And so that is characteristic of a reflection over the y-axis. So we'll do that little shorthand here, capital R, Y. And we're really just taking all of our x's and making them negative. All right, so those are our horizontal transformations in the correct order. And we see we just have one vertical transformation, a y affecting transformation. And that's the 3 out front. And we know with vertical transformations, we really get to do exactly what we see. So we see 3 times. It's an understood 3 times that square root. And so that's what we're doing to our y's. We're multiplying them by 3 or stretching them out. So it's a stretch by a factor of 3. And really we're just multiplying 3 times our y's. Okay, so now we've gathered our transformations. We know what we're doing. We know what we're expecting. And we're ready to move to step 2, plot and transform using intermediate graphs. So we'll start by plotting the parent function in green. So we know our parent function starts at the origin and shoots off into the first quadrant. So it has points at 0, 0, 1, 1, and 4, 2. Okay, so lightly mark those on the graph. And we're going to use this as the starting point for our transformations. So let's switch colors now for our first intermediate graph where we move everything right 1. So switching to blue, let's shift each of these green points to the right 1. And we'll just mark our little intermediate graph, like I said, in a different color, in our blue color, and with x's. All right, so that is our first transformation. Now we're ready to reflect over the y-axis. This is just taking our intermediate blue points and making the x coordinate negative. So let's flip to yellow. Okay, and we take each of our blue points and we reflect over that y-axis. Okay, so that is our second horizontal transformation taken care of. All right, finally, we are moving on to our vertical transformation. Let's do that in red. So we're taking the y-coordinates of our yellow intermediate graph and we're stretching by 3 vertically, or taking all the y's and multiplying them by 3. Okay, tripling the distance away from the x-axis would be another way to think about it, a more visual way to think about it. All right, so the point that's on the x-axis, its y-coordinate 0, so it doesn't move, it stays there. And let's use a dark circle here. We're going to already jump into step 3 as well. Okay, our second point, that's at negative 2, 1. The y-coordinate's 1, multiply it by 3. Okay, so we get up here. And our final point at negative 5, 2. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, notice the x-coordinates stayed the same the whole time we applied this transformation. Okay, so that is done. Now we can darken the points if we have not already and sketch the graph. So we're expecting the parent graph. Let's do that in green. Just to see a quick sketch, the parent graph looked like that. And so it makes sense that our red final points of our graph show a reflected graph. It's reflected over the y-axis, so it shoots up and away like this. All right, so that was how to graph a transformation of a parent function y equals square root of x using 3 steps to sketch and creating intermediate graphs, so the on the graph method.